Hey, good afternoon. It's been a little bit of a mess for some of us across central and northern Indiana. I'm 13 News meteorologist Matt Standridge. We want to show you where the ice is right now, where it's going, how road conditions are handling so far with some of this freezing rain, and then we'll let you know when all this is out of here. No matter where you live, it's been a really dreary and gray day. We've had rain showers, we've had mist, we even have some patchy fog out there. And then of course, it's hard not to notice the pink color showing up on the map. That's that freezing rain and drizzle that we're still tracking across northern parts of Indiana. I will tell you, the heaviest freezing rain has been able to push out, getting into Ohio now, but we're still left with some freezing mist as clouds are super low. It may not be necessarily raining where you live, but as you're cruising down the interstate, you may notice a couple of those droplets kind of hitting the windshield. You got to hit the windshield wipers every once in a while. This mist will last for a while, but I'll show you who has kind of the highest chance to still get some of it to stick a little bit and possibly freeze. So let's show you the weather cameras we have across the area. A lot of us are above freezing. If you're above freezing, you're mainly okay. Although, let's say in Carmel, for example, you're looking there at the Arts District. For some of the elevated surfaces like a railing or a mailbox or maybe even the top of your vehicle or maybe your car door handle, you can still get a very light thin glaze on surfaces like that. Once you get to 32, those surfaces get a little bit more iced up. Once you get below 30, which most of us are still above 30, but once you get below 30, that's when you typically start getting more of the icy patches on a lot of the roads. But still be on the lookout this evening for some roads that maybe aren't treated. There could still be some slick spots. This is what it looks like live downtown. The clouds are low, and I tell you what, you know, the Salesforce Tower only goes up about 700 feet, so these clouds are roughly 400 feet above our heads. It's very easy for the mist to still come down. We're getting that mist right now in Indy. You don't see necessarily a raindrop on our observation sensor there at the airport, but we are actively getting mist. In Indy, not too many slick spots. You're probably good. It's due to the north and to the east where we have some more of those slick spots. So here's Live Doppler 13. We're turning on some of the pink colors. You can see where the freezing drizzle is. It's mainly to the north and to the east. The heavy stuff has mainly pushed out. But notice how we still have a winter weather advisory to the north. It does include some of our northern counties. We're talking about you guys in Peru and Logansport. Good afternoon in Marion. And then once you get into Blackford County and Jay County, Portland, we're still getting some of that freezing mist. The advisory lasts until 11 o'clock. Could it be expired early? Sure, but maybe not, just depending on this freezing mist that could still set up for the next couple of hours. And if you've got some slick spots, they'll probably last as temperatures stay right next to freezing or slightly colder when you go up to the north. Closer to Indy, just some cold mist. I tell you what, when you're looking at your car sensor, the thermometer, you may be at 34, 35, 36. So we're pretty close, but most of the freezing drizzle has been off to the north and the east. Let's take a look at some of this freezing drizzle we still have. It's patchy there in Marion and Hartford City. It gets even thicker once you go up to the north towards Fort Wayne. But we've even had some for the northern half of Henry County. So once you get out of Newcastle and you'll head towards Mount Summit, we're getting some of that freezing drizzle still. We have that cutoff near Pendleton, where the Arabians are, towards Anderson. We've got still some freezing drizzle. Some freezing drizzle still being reported there in Tipton. And then once you get into Randolph County, Winchester, we got a little bit of that for us too, in Union City. And then once you get north into Jay County, the Portland area, that freezing drizzle still remains. The cutoff is right there towards Newcastle, Hagerstown. You get into Fountain City, Economy. We're kind of getting that cutoff there in kind of northern Wayne County. Richmond and Centerville were right on the edge. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple railings here and there are kind of slick, but the colder temperatures are just up to the north. So you're looking at Mount Pleasant and Mount Summit there in Parker City, still some light ice forming. This is not an ice storm, but you still may see a little bit of a slick spot here and there throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening. We've also been watching the strikes. Most of the more robust freezing rain had pushed out, but right there around noon to 1, we were getting freezing rain with thunder at times. It was coming down in a much heavier way, but this mist sometimes can be worse because what happens is if it's too heavy, it's harder for the water to necessarily freeze as fast. But mist, since it's just smaller water in general, you can freeze that just a little bit more easily. So watch out for this freezing mist that's continuing there, parts of eastern Indiana, from Henry County into Delaware County, even parts of Wayne County into Randolph, Jay County, Blackford County, and then once you get to Marion and Fort Wayne, that continues. Farther to the south has just been some light rain, but what you don't see is still some patchy mist and some fog that we have to the west of Indianapolis. Very hard for the radar to pick this up, but we'll probably still have some mist for a while. It's going to be a great day. I don't think we're going to see the sun today anywhere for western Indiana. Here's Lafayette, Purdue. We're right on the edge of that winter weather advisory. We had some slick conditions earlier, but the colder air was just north of Purdue. Once you get north of Clinton County, just north of Howard County, you get towards Peru. That's where we still have those winter weather advisories. And when we've zoomed out, you can actually see some of those strikes we've had there towards central Ohio now. We had some of these earlier. Now they're pushing just east of Dayton towards Columbus, but you can see kind of the edge between ice and rain. So the freezing drizzle is going to last for a couple more hours, especially as temperatures hold right next to the freezing mark and a little bit colder. All right, that's where the freezing drizzle is now. It is slowly pushing it out, but I still think there may be some freezing mist for the next couple of hours. Tonight at 6, we'll track that for you. How are the roads doing, though? Because that's the big question. We can look at the radar, but what is actually happening on the ground? I think this really paints a good picture of where we've seen more of that thin glaze develop on some untreated surfaces like bridges and maybe an overpass or two. Most major roads are okay, but we've started to notice the kind of the pink colors retreat off to the north just a little bit. They were closer to Muncie and Tipton about 30 minutes ago and even getting towards Winchester, but we're noticing some of that ice kind of accretion, that formation there a little bit farther to the north. This green color just shows you a lot of wet roads. It's wet everywhere across central Indiana, but as soon as you get north of Purdue, you get towards Rensselaer, you get towards there in Kokomo, we've got some ice reports there on some of the roads, and we'll actually zoom in a little bit closer. We've still got some icy patches there right around Peru and Logansport, Huntington, Marion, Hartford City, we've got some of that too. And then once you get to Jay County there in Portland, we've got some of the light ice, and then south into Randolph. Winchester's about here, so we've got some ice patches reporting as well. Where you see the red color, that's a thicker ice that's on these roads. That's not necessarily here in central Indiana. You've got to go north. But if you are planning this evening to go see some family or friends closer to Fort Wayne, just be advised. Roads are a little bit slicker the farther north and east you go. This was always going to be the bullseye. We were kind of on the edge of things, but this is where we've seen a little bit more ice try to form throughout the afternoon and may continue to do so just a little bit with some of this freezing drizzle. But more wet roads once you get to Anderson and Noblesville and the Carmel, Westfield, and Fishers. A little bit warmer, so we're just a little bit safer. So let's look at some of these temperatures. When you're at 36, 37, you're mainly okay. 40s, we're good. IU is good. You get to Shelbyville, Columbus, we're good. What's a little bit more tricky are these 33s. You can still get some colder surfaces like your car, for example. The metal on your car is a little bit colder than the air temperature. So that's where you can still get a thin glaze on some of these elevated surfaces. Even colder in Kokomo. Freezing mist still reporting out there with that northeast wind coming at us. Still some light ice may form over the next couple of hours. Let's take a look at some more of these temperatures. Lafayette, we're right at 32 there for Purdue, so still some light freezing mist could be possible at times, but it's really once you get to 31 and 30 and even 29, there in Huntington at 29, that's where you can get the ice to form just up a little bit more. Not everything just stays as water, but a little bit more tries to form into ice. A little bit safer there in Noblesville and Lebanon. We're kind of on the edge. Here's Muncie. Close to the edge too. There might be a couple of slick spots around Ball State, but this is why we were talking about Randolph County and Jay County and Blackford County. We've got a lot of 30s and 31s here towards eastern Indiana. This is also where we got the heavier ice. Remember earlier this week, what was it, Wednesday night and Thursday? We had some more of that ice, and so we may still have some slick spots out there as well. So don't be surprised as you're headed out the door this afternoon and evening that you could still run into a slick spot. Farther south you go, a little bit safer. I think we're good in Indy, we're good in Martinsville, Greenwood, the Woodmen, we're doing fine there at 37. Rushville 35, and the Spartans in Newcastle should be good at 35 too. But boy, aren't we close to sitting there in the mid 30s. Once you get a little bit farther south, once you're in the 40s, I mean, you're completely safe. It's just a nasty, cold mist that's going to continue for a while. So we'll still watch northern Indiana and north central Indiana the next couple of hours. Here's 6 o'clock. We'll actually be on at 6:30. We've got the Pacers on our channel tonight, so watch as they're away this evening. We'll start at 6:30 for the news. There could still be some freezing mist for the north, anywhere from Kokomo and Peru, back off towards the east, towards Jay County, maybe even a little bit in Muncie. Might be a little bit safer in Richmond if we can get back to that 34. We're closer to the 32, 33 right now. 34 is usually pretty safe, and then we're pretty safe back off to the south and west. And there's also just not a lot of moisture left. This is the heavier freezing mist. There could still be some patchy drizzle here and there, so still some slick spots possibly off to the north. Then we get that out of here by 9, 10 o'clock. We'll see if the winter weather advisory expands or it has to be expired a little bit early. We'll get that to you once that happens. But most of the freezing drizzle pushes out. Then we'll be watching tomorrow. We're still on the colder side, and as winds shift from being out of the northeast to a little bit more northwesterly, we may see Lake Michigan do its thing. There could be a couple flurries that take place later into the afternoon. Kind of hard to pick up on. I think we'll stay on the cloudier side, but don't be surprised if we get a couple flurries in parts of northern Indiana and eastern Indiana. So generally north of Indy, once you get into the suburbs there for Carmel and Westfield and Noblesville up to Pendleton and Anderson, you could get a couple flurries. The farther north you go, maybe a better chance, and also the farther east you go, you may get a little bit of a better chance. Not expecting really accumulation, but don't be surprised if you see a couple snowflakes out there. All right, so we want to kind of wrap up with how much ice we're still thinking. A lot of this has already fallen, but there still may be kind of some freezing mist out there. But the heavier ice has always been off to the north, where some spots, especially get closer to Fort Wayne, you could get up to a quarter. That's not meaning everyone gets that quarter inch in the darker purple, but you could get up to maybe a tenth or two, maybe up to a quarter for the max. Still maybe a thin glaze for some of us farther to the north of Indy. Indy's probably fine. There could be a couple small places where your mailbox could be getting a light thin glaze, and that could even still be possible for parts of Boone and Hamilton County as the freezing mist kind of lingers for a little bit. If you're at 33, 34, you're a little bit better. Once you hit 32, that could be something that we'll watch out for. But most of the roads across central Indiana are wet. So that's some good news, but don't be surprised once again if your car door handle has just a little bit of glaze on it. So here's Live Doppler 13, heavier freezing rain pushing out, but what you don't see is some of the mist. The mist may stay out there for a couple hours. So we'll watch that. We'll watch temperatures throughout the rest of the afternoon. If you are headed out, just give yourself a little extra time. There's also a lot of road spray. Even where temperatures are too warm for ice, you're getting a lot of vehicles in front kicking up with their tires, all that road spray that hits your windshield. So it's just not fun driving. Give yourself a little extra time, but you'll be able to get to where you need to go, hopefully okay. The farther north you go, the more slick spots that might be out there. We'll give you an update at 6:30. We'll have the news, and then we'll be tracking a couple flurries tomorrow. Bigger snows are possible next week. That's something we'll also get into later tonight at 6:30. Maybe a chance Monday night into Tuesday, especially south parts of Indiana from I-70 south, and then maybe more widespread on Wednesday night, something that I have to watch. The jet stream's right over us next couple days. It's going to keep us active. So we'll let you know how we think next week is going to turn out. Make sure you keep it here, keep it local. As always, we'll keep you advised.